Okay, so your bell work for Unit 4, guided lessons, or guided notes lesson 1, you have -3 squared. You need to write out and evaluate. -3 squared. Remember your rules for multiplying integers. Problem. If we have -3 squared, we're writing out -3 and multiplying it by itself how many times? 2. So we have -3 times -3. We have the same sign, so our answer is going to be what? If we have a negative and a negative, our answer is positive. What is 3 times 3? 9. So -3 squared is equal to 9. So today our topic is terminating and repeating decimals. Our target is comparing rational numbers. I can change fractions into decimals, and I can change decimals into fractions. So common fractions, terminating and repeating decimals, percents, and integers are all rational numbers. For our vocabulary words, your first vocabulary word, you have repeating decimals can be represented using what? Bar notation. So that little bar, if we had 0.333333 and it keeps going on, it's a repeating decimal. Instead of writing out all those threes, it can be expressed using bar notation, which is that bar that we put above 3. Did you have fun? For our next vocabulary word, if the repeating digit is 0, the decimal is a blank decimal. When you have a decimal that's stopped, it is called a terminating decimal. So that is your second vocabulary word. Fill in terminating. That means it stops. To change a fraction, or to change a decimal to a fraction, you're going to use the place value of the final digit as the denominator. So if you have one decimal place over, it's in the 10th place, you write your decimal over 10. If it's 2 decimal places over, that's the 100th place, you write your decimal over 100. 3 decimal places over would be the 1000th place, you would write that decimal over 1000. So you use place value of the final digit as the denominator to your fraction. In your notes, it says top dog gets the doghouse. So the top dog goes into the house when you are dividing fractions. So when we have our fraction, the top part of our fraction is called the numerator. The bottom of our fraction is the denominator. We divide top divided by bottom, or numerator divided by denominator. And when you write that out as a long division problem, you can always remember that the top dog gets the house. The number that you have in your numerator, or the top, is going to go inside, and you divide by your denominator. So this is to change a fraction to a decimal. I want you to add this part in the space on your notes underneath top dog gets the house. That's for a fraction being changed to a decimal. Okay, so for our first example, we want to write each fraction or mixed number as a decimal. We have 74 hundredths. How would we write that as a decimal? Yeah, you might know, since it's over 100, we can think of place value. If you have a number written out, 1 decimal place over is our 10th place. 2 decimal places over would be our 100th place. So if you have a fraction over 100, you can write it as 0.74. If you had it 3 decimal places over, that would be your 1000th place. So since we have this fraction over 100, it is 74 hundredths, and we read this value as 74 hundredths because our last digit ends in our hundredths place. Okay, if we move on to the next question, we have -5 and 3/4. We want to write this mixed number as a decimal. So right off the bat, if we look at our whole number, what is our whole number? -5. So we can put -5 and then bring down our decimal place. And we need to change this value 3/4 into
75.
a decimal. And some of you already know that if you have 3 out of 4 quarters, how much change do you have? 75 cents. If you didn't know, this is when you would set this up as dividing, and you would do 3 divided by 4. Top dog, our 3 is up top, that goes in the house. 4 goes on the outside. You add your zeros, and we have a division problem. How many times can 4 go into 3? 0. What about 30? 7. 4 times 7 is 28. We subtract. What's 30 minus 28? 2. We bring down a 0. How many times can 4 go into 20? 5. And what is 5 times 4? 20. What would happen if we had another number here? We would add a 0 and we would continue. Okay, so -5 and 3/4 written as a decimal is -5.75. If you wanted to, you could change this to an improper fraction and then divide. If you wanted to change it to an improper fraction, we know that we have a negative number, so our fraction is still going to be negative. You would multiply your denominator times your whole number. What's 4 times 5? 20, and you would add in your numerator, which is 23, and we would keep it over the same denominator, which is 4, and then you could divide 23 divided by 4. You would still get -5.75 as your answer. Okay, the next one we have is 7/9. Looking at this, can you think of anything for 7/9? No, so we're going to have to divide. Our top dog is what? 7, so 7 goes in the house, and you can add on a couple of zeros. What number goes on the outside? 9. So we're setting up our division problem. Make sure you zip up your decimal. You have to line up this decimal place. Can 9 go into 7?
Yeah. No.
No. So can 9 go into 70?
Yes, 7 times.
How many times?
7.
7. What is 9 times 7?
63.
63. We subtract.
7.
We get 7, and we bring down our 0. How many times can 9 go into 70?
7.
7. What's 9 times 7?
63.
63. What do you notice about this?
It repeats.
It's going to keep going. We could keep going and answer this question for forever. How do we write a repeating decimal?
Put a line on top.
Put a line over it. So we'd have 0. What number is repeating?
7.
7. So we want to put our bar notation above the 7. And we get an answer as 0.7 repeating. Okay, so like we said at the beginning, every terminating decimal can be written as a fraction by using the place value of the final digit as the denominator. So the first question that we're going to do together is find the fraction of fish in the aquarium that are goldfish. So if we look at goldfish, what's our decimal? 0.15. If we wanted to change that to a fraction, what place value is our last digit in? If it's 2 digits over. This 1 would be in the tenths, 5 would be in the hundredths. So we write 15 over what number?
100.
15 over 100, and we need to simplify if possible. Can we simplify for this? What number goes into both 15 and 100?
3.
5. We could divide both by 5. What is 15 divided by 5? 3. And what is 100 divided by 5? 20. Could we simplify 3/20ths? No, so that's our final answer. So we get 3/20ths from 0.15. 1500ths, when you say this decimal place out, it's 1500ths, which we write as 15 over 100, and then simplify. Okay, for your on your own problems, they want you to change your decimal to a fraction for guppies and for angelfish. So I will give you a couple minutes to try that. If we look at our decimal for guppy, what decimal do we have? 0.25. If you read that, it would be 25. What place value is this? Hundredths. So if we have 25 hundredths, we can write it as a fraction as 25 over 100. Can this fraction be simplified? Yes. How can we simplify it? We can divide by what? You could have divided by 5. And what's 25 divided by 5? 5. And what's 100 divided by 5? 20. Can you simplify further? By 5, and we get 1 over 4. That's in simplest form. So 25 hundredths as a decimal can be written as 1/4 in simplest form. For angelfish, what is our decimal? 0.4. What place value is that 4 in? The tenths place, so when we write that as a decimal, it's going to be 4 over what value? Tenths place, it's going to be 4 over 10, and then we can simplify. What can we divide both sides by? 2. 4 divided by 2 gives us 2, and 10 divided by 2 gives us 5, so we have 2/5 written in simplest form. Yes.
Is there like an easier way to draw a division sign? Because like you can use like the little dot, like for multiplication.
Okay, so for your homework, I'm going to have you answer the last 3 on your own problems. So write each fraction or mixed number as a decimal. That will be tonight's homework.